thinking about your fiscal responsibility, thinking about how you are managing your credit and making the best financial decisions for your creativity and for your growth as well. So I'll go to B first because I know Keezy is going to have a bunch of gems. He's also going to facilitate this last interactive session for us. B, how did you navigate? And I think that we have some people here, and I think it was Asia that said that. How did you navigate leaving your 9 to 5 to create full time? Are you a sort of careful risk taker? Are you a I'm just going to jump out the plane and kind of see where I land as you think about like making the best financial decisions for your growth and your fiscal responsibilities? So how did that, when you think about that, how did you navigate that to start? And it was something else before it was Paper Monday, but Paper Monday is what we know it as, the business that you and Raj run together. So thinking about making the best financial decisions, like what was the chat that you and Raj had, and how did you go about doing that? Did you save? Was your credit good?
Okay. I have to start from the beginning. I'm a specific case when it comes to money and finances and jobs and all that kind of stuff. So for this section, I planned. I was like, I'm just gonna listen to Kezia because I don't know if I'm the best person to be weighing in on financial decision making. Um, but that said, I actually, like I said, I just had a very conventional upbringing. My parents expected me to do to be a professional. I come from a family of physicians, and so everybody expected me to go to medical school. And when I decided not to, it was a really big deal, and I had to have a backup plan. And my backup plan was to become a professor. So I figured if I wasn't going to be a MD, I'd be a PhD. So that was my plan. And then I met Raj. Actually, I was in a PhD program, and I was looking for apartments. Excuse me, I feel like the lights changed in my my wheelchair. I was looking for an apartment, and I was pretty much ready to go start the 7-year journey to becoming a PhD. And all the while knew that wasn't really my journey, but I just wanted to prove, what I felt I didn't prove in becoming an MD. So I was like, this is my career path. I'm just going to go ahead and do it. It's not a big deal. Just do it. And then Raj introduced me to this whole other way of living, which is creativity and being spontaneous, but also being very, I guess, socially active and driven in a really practical way. And I just loved it. I just loved the experience of like meeting all these amazing people who were doing things I could have never imagined. Honestly, I met the first people I knew who hadn't gone away to college. Everybody I knew had gone to college. And so it was just like an education, another education for me in terms of understanding what was possible in the world and understanding different choices that I could make. So I have since held real jobs, but up until that point, before I was doing creative life, I had like college jobs. Excuse me, I had like college jobs. So I was never a 9 to 5 worker, and I had aspirations to do those things, but they just weren't in the cards for me. And even still, sometimes I think like, oh, that's what people do. They have these like conventional jobs, but that's really just not something that is ever really worked for me and never been right for my personality. But creative life has been and has really taken off and done a lot for me. So I would just encourage anybody out there who's trying really hard to be a normal worker to just do what's in your heart and know that there are other spheres in the world that work for people who have those inclinations. So you don't have to have a 9 to 5, or you don't have to leave your 9 to 5. Like there's so many different ways to be a fully capable and well-adjusted and like, how do I say this, like a affluent person in terms of like being able to give and receive financially, spiritually, creatively. But practically speaking, to really answer your question, I was always saying, Ron, should I get a job? Should I get a job? Should I work? Like maybe we just have some extra money to like pay for our things. This is as we were coming up. And he's always like, no, 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 that's not the answer. We have to just like keep plugging away at what we're doing and keep putting our work out and like keep watering these seeds that we've already built. I mean, already, like, what's the word? planted. We need to water the seeds that we've planted instead of trying to just like find new ground, new ground, new ground, you know? And he was right. He was right about that from the beginning. And you know, for us, getting a job to pay for what we were doing was not the place we were at. For us, we needed to really, really invest in what we were doing, and not by just like having a salary that would pay for things, but in terms of like spending time connecting with people, following up on opportunities, getting better at our skills. That was a really huge one. Just getting more and more skilled. To this day, that's paid off more than anything, in terms of like getting us higher day rates, getting us bigger jobs. It's just working on honing our skills. Um, and yeah, I hope I answered your question, but let me know if there's anything else I can.
No, you did. Kezia, please take it easy on B. I know. I'm curious for you, Kezia. I didn't know that
You don't
you
have to take it easy on
that
me.
I didn't know.
Give it
First
to
of
me
all,
straight.
B, I didn't know that you were in a PhD. So I met B around like a little before you and Raja got married, I think. That felt like ages ago now, but I didn't know that you're in PhD. That's so dope. And even that was
Yeah.
part of your path. Kezia, like I also didn't know until you shared earlier that, I thought you've been doing your whole thing, for a minute. But you becoming a full-time self-employed person is new. And so I know you're probably a little bit more regimented, right? I totally didn't know Raj was as like that gives me comfort to know Raj as much as a risk taker as I am, B's husband.
I'll be honest with you. He is such a calculated risk taker, though. He really knows how to like work things out. Like, again, blessed to be in partnership, because he is like, I would say not a risk taker, actually. I would say he's like very, very measured, but he
Yes,
still
yes, he is.
finds ways for us, and for us to just live our best lives. Like, we are lacking nothing. We have everything we need in abundance, and we're able to like keep going. And it's always been that way. Even when we were just like had an air mattress, we still like had the best experiences. We still like were able to keep going. But so anyway, I'm gonna stop talking about money because I want to listen about money. I want to
No,
hear
I
from
love
Kivia.
that. I love that. Yeah, Keys, I'm curious to
It's
know how.
relatable.
Yeah,
Everything
I'm
you're
curious to
saying
know
is
for
relatable. I'm
you.
sitting over here shaking my head like, mhm.
I'm curious for you, Keys. I'm assuming you probably, and I know Raj to be calculated too as well. So I'm assuming that you really thought about like frugality, being fiscal, and like, hey, I'm gonna lean into this thing. So like, how did you? What were the decisions that you made to be responsible and grow what you had started maybe as a side? And I don't even know if you started on the side, but what were some of the decisions you made to you know before you said I'm going to jump out and do this fully? Did you have savings? Did you have your EIN? Did you decide to get a credit card, right, with the EIN, so that could potentially be some of your funding? Like, curious to hear your story. And then Kizia is also going to take us through our money track after. So Kizia, yeah, let me know how you leaped out and started Black Upstart.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And so, Ian, you are not the first person to think that I have been doing this full time for like 15, 16 years. But like some of you all were probably taught when you were growing up that the definition of success was you go to high school, you get that diploma, you go to college, you graduate, and you get a degree, and then you get a good job. But if you really made it, you get a good government job with benefits, and you hold on tight for 40 years so you can retire with what, ladies and gentlemen, a pension. So follow that track to quote success for the first part of my young professional life. But like most of you all, I started to experience exactly what I described earlier in my chat. I mean, the pain of going into a majority workspace and then your ability to be promoted, your ability to be recognized, your ability to receive pay raises and bonuses were really contingent upon your ability to assimilate in a space that may not even feel comfortable to you. And so for several years, I battled with the thought of, well, what happens if I leave this space? How does safety and security look like for me? And so, like many entrepreneurs, I think that this is a big, big, big reason why I can identify with that entrepreneur who was working full time and building their business. I worked 9 to 5. I came home and I built my business 6 to midnight. And that's why I'm not a proponent of individuals saying, you know what, forget this, I quit. And then you plan after the resignation. No, I was planning leading up to the resignation. And so beforehand, I was writing down, what problem do I want to solve? I was testing out my innovations just to make sure that there were customers there. I know as creative people, I talked about manifesting your vision. But when you're running an enterprise, if no one is buying your product or service, you don't have a business, you have a hobby. And so, trying to make sure that there was an economic compatibility with my idea, right? Making it an innovation, that there was actual a customer base that would not only purchase it once, but again and again and again, so I could resource my life. Yes, there were some practical things that I did. Registered for the limited liability company, registered for my employer identification number, made sure that I was able to read my cash flow statements and generate profit, not just revenue, for 3 years. I made sure that I was budgeting on a consistent basis. It's one thing to say, I'm not going to order from Amazon for a month. It's just another thing to say, let's take a year hiatus. Goodbye, Amazon Prime. You know, it's one thing to say, let me do my hair for like 2 months because my girl that does my joints, she out of town. It's one thing to do it for a year. The cost of success is sacrifice. And there were a lot of financial sacrifices that I made in order to make sure that my savings was in a place where when I did say I resigned, that I wouldn't have to go crawling back to find additional employment until I was really able to test out full-time entrepreneurship at a level that felt comfortable for me. And then the other thing that I did, and this was perhaps the hardest thing. Well, before I talk about that, I wrote down financial goals. So I knew it would be easier to buy a home when I had 6 years worth of work history under my belt. And so that was one of the financial goals that I absolutely wanted to achieve. I wanted to leverage my work history to buy a home, but I also knew that my next place needed to be cash flow producing if I chose. So I went from living in a 600 square foot apartment to now owning a duplex. That was important to me to do because I could live on one side and I could rent out the other side in order to cover my mortgage just in case I hit someplace on my road that created financial instability. And then the other thing that I wanted to do, and this is just, I don't know if any mama girls out there, but I wanted to pay off my mom's mortgage before I quit my job. And so I got my savings together, I bought my duplex, I paid off her mortgage, and then came the hardest thing that I ever did. And that was actually saying goodbye to my 9 to 5. And it wasn't hard to say goodbye because I loved my job per se. It is the mental block that you have to get over. And I think B was kind of, she was talking about that when she was talking about the expectations that her parents had for her. It was knowing that deep inside of me that I was never created to go to work and sit in a cubicle every single day and operate in somebody else's purpose. There's a difference between going to work every single day and earning a paycheck and waking up every single day and living your purpose. But taking the step out on faith to say that at the end of the day, I'm going to kill what I eat, that's a difficult mental transition. And so it took me another 60 days after I'd already achieved my financial goals to finally say goodbye. And this is one of the things that I'll tell you. I submitted my resignation at the height of Omarion/Omicron, whatever you call it on social media. I remember celebrating the day that I resigned and then asking myself, oh my gosh, was this the right timing? I don't know about the spiritual people on the line, but God's timing is always perfect. And since I submitted my resignation, my business has been so busy. It was like God was waiting for me to say, if you will, then I will. And so people always said, how do you balance the 9 to 5 and then you run one business, but not just two businesses? Now that the 9 to 5 is out of the way, the 8 hours that I was setting aside to build their dream is now being occupied by the purpose that God has seated in me. So it's not just a harvest now, it's an abundant harvest, and it's one that is seated by purpose. And I think that that's something that you can't underestimate.
I love that. Oh my gosh. I'm learning, there's things that I knew about both of you, but there's things that I'm certainly learning. And shout out to Irie in the back. Hi, Irie. Um, um, quick hit question because we're gonna dive into Keys' section. And Keys is gonna facilitate this next part for us. What is both of you, just a quick rapid fire, what is the worst fiscally responsible decision you made either before you like have been doing your entrepreneur thing, or even like now since doing it? What's the worst decision that you made, or worst thing that you maybe spend on that you're like, dang, I shouldn't have done that. That wasn't fiscally responsible. That wasn't a great decision to make. Quick hit.
Saying this is gonna so I'm a second generation financial teacher. That's important for you to understand. So sometimes when people ask me that, they're like, "Did you go buy a Lamborghini? Did you go rent out a private jet?" The most fiscally irresponsible decision I made was closing a credit card after I had paid it off. And I had had that credit card for 15 years. And I was so excited when I got the balance down to zero and kept it at zero for 6 months. I said, I'm going to eliminate this temptation. Shut down a credit card. But what people don't tell you is that if you don't reopen it within 30 days, that credit card is forever and always closed. And now you lose all of the credit history that you've built up into the point that you closed it. And for me, it was 15 years. So when I checked my credit and I saw that my credit score had dropped 30 points, I called up Bank of America because that's who the credit card was for. And I was like, hold up, what's going on now? What is happening? And they're like, well, listen, I was like, can you open my credit card again because I need that credit history back so I can get my score up. And they were like, well, if you had called us just one day sooner, then we could have done that for you. We're happy to open another card for you, but at this time, our decision is final. And so I had to work to build back my credit history after that financial mistake.
B, what was your worst fiscally responsible decision?
I would have to say purchasing third wave coffees, lattes, matchas outside of my home daily, twice daily, 3 times daily for many years. I don't know what I was doing. I thought I was having the time of my life. I thought they were delicious. I thought I was fancy. I thought it was cute. I only wish I had at least taken photographs and I could have like made some sort of Instagram out of it, like as much as I was doing that, because it was a huge waste of money and a constant outward stream. And now I've learned to make my own matchas at home, which I like as much, even more than any of those outside matchas. But I don't know what I was doing. $7,
Mm,
$21 a day on caffeine. Oh, it's painful
yeah.
looking back when I think about things that I would like, even small things I would like. I'm like, I could have just not had 5 or 6 of those and had something really nice. Yeah. So if you're out there doing that, spend the time, try to figure out how you can make your own stuff at home. When you get to pick your milk and you pick your syrup and you pick your stuff, you'll be so happy and it'll cost so much less. So yeah, that's my thing, eating out.
Beautiful. Well, I appreciate both of your vulnerability for the sake of